Welcome to Illuminati Silver. We tell you the truth about silver. Today is Monday, the 30th of November, 2020. And this is episode 3 of Are We Reaching Peak Silver? Episodes 1 and 2 of Are We Reaching Peak Silver, plus the complete 5 episodes of Peak Gold, are listed in the description box below with relevant links. Now, in episode 1 of Peak Silver, we looked at the definition of what peak silver means, the supply and demand as highlighted by the Silver Institute, including how much silver has been mined and likely available reserves in the ground. In episode 2, we looked at what is generally regarded as available above the ground, as this will certainly act as a buffer against any supply versus demand deficiencies, certainly in the short term. We also highlighted that the 2019 World Silver Survey declared that the world held around 2.5 billion ounces, or 79,000 metric tons of silver above ground, at least as they describe it, as identifiable silver, mostly held as bullion stocks and coins. Now, our conclusions signified that even if we were to forecast a silver deficit of 100 million ounces a year, which is approximately the worst deficit experienced, if you divide that into 2.5 billion and you use current demand scales, then you have approximately 25 years of available supply above ground to mop up that balance. Now, not everyone agrees with this prognosis, and we shall look at a few dissenters who hold a differing opinion. In 2018, for example, Phil Baker, CEO of Hecla Mining, told Kitco News, quote, "A lack of silver exploration in the last 30 years has caused silver production to reach a peak. I would characterize it as having reached a peak level of silver production. There hasn't been an exploration, certainly in the lead and zinc area, and so there is a continued coming deficit." Baker also noted that silver has demand from new applications that have come into existence in the last 20 years, such as photovoltaic cells and film equipment. Now, we mentioned solar panels last time and why it could be a mistake to rely on silver's future totally being dependent on that industry. Now, there are many articles and reports that show whilst there's no shortage of silver in the ground, the issue is the cost of production. Let's just take a look at one of them. Scottsdale Bullion and Coin, dated article October 3rd, 2017. When Will Silver Peak? By Eric Sepanik. For years, analysts have been talking about the issue of peak silver. Recently, the Silver Institute issued its GFMS World Silver Survey 2017. This report indicated that silver mine production on a global basis in 2016 dropped to about 886 million ounces, from 891 million in 2015. This marked the first time in more than a decade that silver production decreased. Has the white metal peaked? Silver supply and demand. The question of peak silver is of vital importance because of the role supply and demand plays in setting prices for any commodity. It is a fundamental principle of all markets that as demand increases in the face of declining supplies, prices will rise. While this effect ultimately plays out in free markets, the challenge lies in accurately predicting when maximum production of any resource has been reached and is on a downward trend. Silver supply. Silver primarily comes from 3 sources: mining production, both primary and as a byproduct of gold and other metal extraction, central banks, sale of silver from their repositories, and silver scrap, the use of scrap supplies of the white metal. Cost to mine silver. The issue of peak silver from a production perspective is getting increased attention of late. Numerous silver mines have shut down or lowered their production levels, and the decline is due to a number of factors. One of the most relevant is the immense amount of fuel needed to produce silver and base metals. Even with unusually low energy costs, fuel represents a significant proportion of the cost of production. Primary mining for silver accounts for only 30% of the world's annual production of the metal. Zinc, lead and copper mining generate 56% of the total, and those mining operations are especially sensitive to the cost of energy. For example, some copper mining operations consume 94 gallons of fuel to produce 1 ton of the metal. As those mines cut their operations, it dramatically impacts the global supply of silver. Earth's gold and silver reserves. It's important to remember a basic fact about precious metals. While the amount of physical gold and silver held in vaults, banks, depositories, and personally by the public is quite small, these metals are relatively abundant in absolute terms. For example, it is estimated there is enough gold in the Earth's core to cover the Earth with a layer of the yellow metal more than a foot thick. Moreover, the oceans alone are believed to contain at least 20 million tons of gold. Silver, while still one of the rarest metals, is 17.5 times more plentiful in the planet's crust than gold. However, these numbers are irrelevant when the cost of production for gold and silver is taken into consideration. A significant point for all investors to consider is that the cost of production of silver is now close to or above the market price. As noted above, energy costs account for much of the expense of mining, and that part of the equation will continue to increase. Thus, the issue of peak silver is based on the fact that even if prices rise, production will be too expensive to ever again support historic levels. These factors indicate increasingly higher prices simply to meet the growing silver demand. Silver demand growing. The question being asked is whether the current declines represent a true peak in the production of silver or a temporary situation. If the world has seen the highest level of annual production it will likely see again, that means increasing demand will create higher prices for available silver. An additional factor analysts are evaluating is the fact that growing market demand means the shift that occurred when the use of silver in photographic processes declined has now reversed. This growth in demand is coming from a number of areas, and the use of silver in green energy devices is a major driver. Moreover, the scrap silver recovered from old film and processing is no longer a significant source of supply. While speculators react to short-term factors and news, long-term buyers of silver understand the importance of looking at all the market factors affecting silver prices. If the world has seen peak production of silver and has to adjust to declining supplies in the face of increasing demand, it will begin paying a significant premium for this precious metal. Those buying silver in 2017 may well be finding true bargains in current prices. End of article. And if we take a quick look at the Silver Institute's silver supply and demand figures as we looked at them last week, we can see when that article was written for 2016 to 2017, silver mine production was 892 million ounces, moving to 863. Just take a look what's happened since. In 2018, it has gone down to 847, and in 2019 to 836. And because, obviously, of coronavirus, etc., et al., that figure is seen to be reducing to 797 for 2020. Of course, what's difficult to assess is what will happen in 2021. We suspect the figure will be somewhere between the 836 and the 797, but it's too early to tell. We can also see, though, that recycling has held up quite moderately, and therefore total supply of silver, again, has marginally fallen or consolidated between 18 and 19 in total, but obviously will have fallen in 2020. The key figures for us will be 2021 and 2022. We can also see and expect the industrial demand for silver having risen in 2017, then fell back in 18, fell back further in 19, and obviously again due to the coronavirus situation will have fallen back again in 2020. And equally, total demand reached a short-term peak, arguably, in 2013 and then 2015, and then gradually fell back a little, rose a little, fell back a little envisaged this year. The biggest change then, of course, being the net investment in ETPs. But in terms of actual production, if we are talking about that defining peak silver, then there is a good case for the moment that supply may diminish. So what we can see from that report is that if the past few years have anything to go by, then mining has declined for a number of years. However, to counteract that, we also have to consider that silver is now at a higher price, despite very recent falls, than it has been for a long time. We also have to accept that some mines, which originally had been closed, are now being opened up again, and even new deposits are being discovered, as for example reported by Richmond Minerals Inc. in April of this year, discovering a major deposit source in Austria. Also, a rediscovery was made at the beginning of the year by Prophecy Pulacao deposit in Bolivia. New Pacific Metals Corp reported in April and is exploring and developing precious metals properties also in Bolivia. The company's flagship property is the Silver Sand Project in Potosi, Bolivia. So, are we really running out of silver? We think not yet. Have we reached peak silver? Well, at current or lower prices, then potentially yes. At higher prices, it's very much more debatable. There is no silver shortage, and anyone who tells you otherwise is deceiving you. There is, though, a limit to how much silver can be extracted within varying price points and subject to current technologies. The price of oil has a bearing in terms of cost and profitability also. And what for us will be interesting is the extent to which mining technology can be further advanced to reduce costs and maintain a degree of environmentally friendly conditions, as the world seems hell-bent on moving towards a net zero carbon production rate. The cause? Climate change. And it'll be critical for us all to evaluate how the price of the alternative will affect silver and gold and other metals mining operations. There is still so much to consider, and as for price, the only factor in our view that will drive price of silver to $100 or more within the next few years is if there is a financial or dollar value crisis. Relying on normal supply and demand, and in view of what's happening in the industrial demand sector, it would, that alone, tend to keep silver operating within price ranges not hugely different to those that we have witnessed this year. And we can forget about all-time highs without such a crisis occurring. What do you think? Do share your thoughts. Meanwhile, thank you so much for listening. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to our channel and press the bell sign so you're notified of our videos as and when they are published. And also, if you have a mind, please pop over to our Richard and Greg channel and sign up or subscribe to that one too, as we will be offering a number of interviews on topical subjects. Thank you once again. We hope you have found this video interesting and informative, and if so, please give it a thumbs up and share it on social media. Please ensure that you have subscribed to our channel and press the bell sign so that you are notified of any future videos. Also, kindly visit our website at illuminatisilver.com, and if you haven't already done so, please subscribe either as a free or paying member for regular email updates and offers. Disclaimer: Illuminati Silver owners come from a background of banking, international wealth management and economics. Having now retired from these worlds, we are not qualified to give investment advice. Therefore, this and other productions must not be deemed to be giving such advice and merely represent the personal views of its owners.